This is the third of the 4 short stories that were bundled with my copy of The Red Badger Courage. This will be a summary and a review. Today we'll be going ahead and talking about The Blue Hotel. Alright, let's get this started with. The Blue Hotel. As the name suggests, you might be thinking of a hotel that is very blue. Essentially, you would be correct. The hotel itself is somewhat blue, but that's not the whole point of this. The point of this, though, is our protagonist, the Swede. He's called the Swede because he's from Sweden. Now, the Swede and his other accomplices, they decide to go towards this blue hotel. They're staying in this blue hotel because they have to stay overnight for some time before they catch a train or other businesses that they have to attend to. Our Swede himself decides to leave this hotel, mainly because he himself is having these delusional, predictions of his death that he's thinking and will be happening towards in this blue hotel, where he's going to die. He's going to die today, and he's pretty sure it's going to happen sometime soon. The others start to try to go ahead and convince him that he's talking crazy and that no such thing is actually going to happen. He shrugs it all off, but he does eventually decide to just stay at the Blue Hotel overnight. Fast forward to them playing cards. The Swede himself is starting to go ahead and discuss talks with everyone else about cheating and how he was playing fair and that he was probably the most fair person in this room. He accuses someone else, a guy named Johnny, that he was cheating in cards. The other characters are called Cowboy and the Easterner. Now, the Easterner and the Cowboy and Johnny themselves go ahead and start realizing that this is not going to be a fun night and that someone is going to end up either exploding in the sense of they are starting to hate this world or dying in the sense of, dying. The Swede starts to accuse Johnny, as I mentioned earlier, of cheating over and over again. This results in his disqualification, essentially, of termination, where he leaves this job, the hotel, and he leaves for the train. Apparently, on the train, while he was going ahead and talking with someone else, he was still in a cranky mood. He accidentally talked with someone and offended him, resulting in him taking out his gun and shooting the Swede to death. This news does go eventually to the other people staying at the Blue Hotel, Johnny, the Easterner, and the Cowboy. A few months later, the people were witnesses at the trial of the murder of our Swede, and he himself is starting to go away scot-free. Our Cowboy and the Easterner start discussing about that night after they get out of the courtroom, where they're thinking of everything that's literally happening in this time period. So while they're going ahead and dabbling along, the Cowboy himself says that if everything was square, then the Swede might not have been killed. But the Easterner tries to go ahead and tells him that the truth, that Johnny was cheating, and that when the Cowboy refused to believe that, he was being called a fool, and then Johnny started to be cheating and everything, all that, he started to think of his world in a different mind, and that the world was probably a little bit more cruel than he thought initially given credit for. With these accusations in hand and the fact that the revelation has been lifted, we get to see the true Blue Hotel, where the Swede might not have died, but unfortunately he has already died, and the best you can do is just talk about what really did happen on that day and what led to his death. So what do I think about the Blue Hotel? In the sense of how it's relatable to my life, or your life, in the sense of if you're also a 14-year-old 9th grade high school student, soon to be 15. In my opinion, though, I find this very relatable in the sense of whenever you argue with, say, your parents, you always feel like you're arguing with a brick wall, right? Unless you somehow have your parents under your thumb, but then that's a completely different story, and those are probably very terrible parents. Either way, so when it comes to you arguing with your parents, it becomes a brick wall, maybe because they don't really exactly just listen to you, especially if you're an Asian, stereotypically wise. With the Blue Hotel itself, I get to see this in action in the sense of I'm the Swede, where I get to see the sense of arguing with my friends, the people who I'm supposed to be playing poker with for fun, and the fact that we're going ahead and starting to destroy ourselves in our world in our literal sense of our lives. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the Blue Hotel itself is an analogy in the sense of you can see yourself as in the arguing of the Swede, and that if you go ahead and eventually take your arguing too far, someone is going to snap and eventually destroy you to death, even if your argument does make the most sense. It isn't until like several hours or months later after that incident, it's that when people start to realize that their actions might have caused more harm than, well, good. So that's essentially what I thought of the Blue Hotel. Now, next time I'll be talking about The Bride Comes to Yellow Sky. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Hunter Sean. Until next time, Shihon out. Peace. Bye bye.